Yes, who's back? Back in Stilts. Okay, enough of that. Did you know that the fear of heights is one of the most common phobias in the world? You know what is also a common phobia? Fear of falling. You ever had a dream waking you up that you're falling? Guess what? This video is all about conquering your fear, getting up in stilts. Let's go. Hey, Jeremy here. Welcome to the WampaDude Channel. And it's finally time for me to teach you how to stilt walk for your cosplay. Now, there's lots of stilt walking tutorials on YouTube. I've seen a lot of them. I need to do something that stands out. And one thing that I noticed that was lacking in a lot of the videos is this part. The first stage of stilt walking is to overcome your fears. And that's why I'm going to make a 3-part series on this, because I want to dedicate the whole first part of the series to overcoming your fears, to understand what fears you may come across. And plus, I want to teach you a little bit about stilt walking. I want to teach you about the different types of stilts out there, and being able to choose your own stilts. So by the time this video is done, I'm going to be up in my stilts, and I'm hoping that you will be too. There are true fears when it comes to stilt walking. That's why the title of the video is Overcoming Your Fears. Because if I let go of this stilt, if it goes forward, look at that. It's a parallelogram. It's going to fall. Everybody looks at it and goes, look, I can't stand on that. It's going to fall. I can't stand on it. It's too high. When I put somebody to train them in stilts at first, they look down and like, oh my God, I get jelly legs. I had a conversation today to my dermatologist. See the Band-Aid? If you've noticed, skin cancer biopsy. It happens. I live in Florida. I got a red beard. Folks, if you got dots on you, if you got specks on you, get them checked out. But back to the topic. Acrophobia, the fear of heights. You're in stilts. You're going to be at a higher perspective that you are at a regular time. You're going to look at the world completely different. And as somebody that's 5'4", being 7'4", 8 foot tall, I love it because I get to see things like everybody else does. I'm not a short guy anymore, so to me, getting up higher at a higher perspective, that's not a phobia to me. That's a bonus. But for a lot of people, they see it. They when you get approached, when you approach somebody that's in stilts at an event, you're there. Oh my God, it's shock and awe, because you know why? Probably because you have a fear. I can never do that. They can. They're the entertainer. Well, that's what you're going to be doing here. You're going to be the entertainer, and you have to sit there and overcome that fear of falling and the fear of heights and the fear of everything else, so you can focus on the people that you will be entertaining. And it's really easy. It's really, really easy to overcome that fear, because acrophobia, the fear of heights, I'm going to teach you just something really quick to overcome that in a second. The fear of falling. There's two phobias. Two phobias are immediately triggered just from standing up here and trying to keep your balance. And then if you're going to be a big costumer like I am, where everything is enclosed, you have claustrophobia, because that costume is all around you. You get hot. You got low vision. You're dealing with everybody around you, and there's fear of crowds too, but really you're dealing with claustrophobia, toephobia, acrophobia all at once because of this device. But here's the thing. Were you a kid? Everybody was a kid, right? If you were a kid, what was the first thing that you did, especially if the parents weren't around and that cookie box or that cookie jar or whatever was on top of the fridge? You pulled up a chair, you climbed up that chair, and you reached around and looked for the treats. Admit it, everybody's done it. Everybody's done it, because as a kid, risk and reward, the reward, we don't have a fear or of risk. We don't know risk, but we want that reward. So we'll do risky things as a kid to climb up and grab the cookies. Take a couple minutes, go to a playground. How many places do you see at a playground where there's a ledge and you can look over it, and you watch kids run back and forth, peek over the ledge, 8 to 10 foot drop, no fear. You watch as them climb up something. You climb up rocks or climb up something that, something that has an unstable base. There are playground equipment nonstop that if you just go out there as an adult, you go out there as a teen, if you just stand on this stuff and you realize, wait a minute, I'm 2 foot above the ground. I'm not afraid of falling. I'm here and I'm having fun. I'm climbing something and I'm having fun. When you're on stilts, you're having fun. You're not thinking about, oh my God, I'm up on top of something. You're thinking, I'm here to have fun. And what's one of the things that kids did all the time? Walking with the parents, and there's a wall. How many people have a kid that wanted to walk on that wall? And what's the first thing we do as parents? Get down, you'll hurt yourself. Get down, you're going to fall. Was it our parents that trained us that we're going to fall? Did we have the natural confidence to walk on that wall and not fall as a kid? And is it a learned behavior that we are now afraid to fall? Good question. So what I'll ask you to do is find something to stand on. Find anything to stand on. I have these apple boxes. Well, not quite apple boxes, but it's a production term. Stand on that. I'm not afraid that I'm 8 inches off the ground. Find a chair. Stand on a chair. Stand on a picnic bench. And then to think, my stilts are 2 foot tall. What have you got around you that you can stand on that's 2 foot tall? And then you know what you'll do? You'll start rocking around and finding even crazier things. Like boat dock walls. Or, heck, we've all stood on the end of a dock and looked down into the water. There's no handrail. There's no risk and protection for us to fall over. We lean too far forward. What's going to happen? We're going to fall underwater. But we don't. We can look over the water and not fall in because we have an understanding that we're planting our weight, we're leaning over, we're not doing this stuff that our parents were afraid that we were going to do. You don't sit there and go, oh, and then step off the dock. No, you know where your limit is. You know that if I push my weight too far forward, I'm going to fall off the dock. If I push my weight too far forward, I'm going to fall off the wall. And that's what this drill is I'm going to teach you. I'm going to teach you a really easy drill on how to catch your weight. So here's our tool. Super simple. Roll of duct tape, rope, and a carabiner clip. What's the purpose of this? It's to visualize where our center of balance is. If you lean to each side, what happens? It will always point straight down. This is where we need to focus on where our weight is. If we lean too far forward, you'll see that it starts to sway. If we lean too far this way, it starts to sway. But if we slowly move over each point on our stilts, no matter what direction we're going in, it usually points straight down. Now, here we are. Here's our boxes. So I'm going to take that, clip it to our belt. When you're stilt walking, you got to remember one thing. It's all about center of balance. Your center of balance is now higher. Your body of mass, your center of mass. When we're standing on the ground, it's in two places. For guys, it's a little bit further up, but for women, it's down in your hips. But when you're in stilts, now your center mass is swaying on that pendulum. So we need to get down in a horse rider stance. Horse rider stance, especially plus you're up high, you're going to be looking down at people. Horse rider stance plants your center of balance. Plus what it does with our roll of duct tape is it brings it down. If we visualize where our body mass, our center of mass is, visualizing it is a little bit different than where it actually is. Sometimes it's that placebo effect. If I'm thinking my mass is down here, I'm planting my weight. If anybody has done sports or done combat sports or anything. Horse rider stance is from Taekwondo. Why do we get in horse rider stance? To plant our weight. In wrestling, I was a wrestler. We lower our body and we squat because it centers our balance and plants our weight. That's the number one key to stilt walking. Plant your weight. As the roll of duct tape moves side to side, as it gets over my foot and gets over my stilt, I can feel the pressure in my knee. That's when I know I'm in the right spot. If I move to the other side, I feel the pressure in my knee. If I lean too far forward, what happens? I start losing my balance. So I'm trying to keep that roll of duct tape from going from one side of my feet to the middle to the other. This simple rule, this simple drill is going to help a lot when it comes to stilt walking, because if you stand on one foot, where's my roll of duct tape? It's over my foot. Over my foot, one foot. Over my foot, the second foot. If I'm turning, where is my roll of duct tape? It's between my stilts. If I'm turning this way, it's between my stilts. So always try to focus on where your center mass is. It's silly, but it's a roll of duct tape on a string. But this right here, when I show people this, something clicks. So if I'm in my stilts and I'm finding my center mass, guess what happens? All of a sudden, that weight gets planted. And I'm thinking, I'm no longer doing this. I'm pushing down. When you horse rider stance, it plants your feet from doing this. We're about to get up on our stilts, but first we need to figure out what are the best type of stilts for your costume. Now, there's no one size fits all when it comes to stilts. There's lots of variables. So, what's your body type? What kind of costume are you going to have? Are you going to have an enclosed costume? Are you going to have a festival costume? What's your skill level? The first variable we need to figure out is the amount of your lift. That's when you take your body height and then your goal height for your costume. The difference there is how much lift you need. Me, I needed 24 inches. I chose drywall stilts here. But there's people that are already tall. They only need 6 to 8 inches. So there's a type of stilts for that. There's people that really want to impress a crowd during a festival. You're looking at 10-foot to 15-foot stilts. Like festivals, stilts have been around for thousands of years. It's been part of our culture, all the way to Chinese, to the Egyptians, to the Greeks, to the Africans. There's been practical purposes for stilts, for picking agriculture, to getting through marshes, to avoiding animals. But then it became spiritual and ceremonial, and that's when the entertainment side of the stilt walking came in. People would look up and see something. It's like, oh my God, I can't achieve that as a regular human being. It became magical. And, that part of it has resonated to today's audience. And, going back to my dermatologist, I kind of skipped that over. She was at a brunch where she saw stilt walkers. She saw somebody in a bumblebee. And she goes, oh my God, I can never be able to do that. That's where we come in. We're the entertainers, we're the stilt walkers. So what I've done is I've narrowed it down to 5 different types. Really, we're probably looking at 3 types, but these 5 types are there's different varieties of each of these 5 types too. So once you watch this chart here, I'm going to explain all of them. If you see something that you like and you think it'll work best for yours, look that term up, find the best version for you. Let's start off with the smallest first. That's the platform shoes and the bucket stilts. This is if you're already tall and you just need a couple of more inches. This is good for, already tall people or people that just want to be brought up just a little bit. There's shoe sole inserts. There's larger soles. You got platform shoes. You got stuff like club wear. You've seen this stuff at the clubs and you've seen it on stage. Look at Kiss. Gene Simmons is well known for wearing platform shoes, and the whole band wore the platform shoes, so just so they would all be larger than life. One of the costuming communities that really likes these bucket stilts and these platform shoes is the Wookiees. Adam Savage did a video based on his Wookiee and updating his Chewbacca feet. It's all about the layered pink insulation foam and putting a snowboarding boot on the top of it, some duct tape, put some fur on it. You got yourself a big, tall Wookiee boot. there's some pre-made bucket stilts also out there where they'll sell the kit, and you can actually modify those. You can put the leg straps on it. You can put the leg supports, the calf supports, and bolt a shoe on it. These are pretty good. I do worry about these though for stilt walking and costuming because of the ankle support. If you do not address your ankle support, these are ankle breakers. You can easily roll your ankle in one of these. So if you're going to go the bucket stilt, or you're going to go the platform shoes, get something with really good ankle support. Make something with a snowboarding boot. Get something that's a strong, sturdy work boot. And even better, put a calf support, put a calf brace on it, so that way it straps to your calf and you can't roll your ankles. This is my favorite, the drywall stilts. The reason why I like these, even though I've tried the bucket stilts, I've tried the peg stilts, I like these because it transfers the movement of your foot to the base of the stilt in a parallelogram. So if you point your toe, the toe on the bottom goes down. If you plant with your heel gets planted. This is the easiest one for me, and I think this one helped me too because of my height. I'm 5'4". I needed to achieve that 8-foot range, and these come in anywhere between 14 inches up to 62 inches. I mean, you can get really tall with these. I've seen some as tall that have a double spring, double parallelogram for doing 2-story vault ceilings. I mean, these things are so versatile, and if you want something to really reach whatever height that you want for your costume, it would be this. The only downside of these is if you're looking for stability, something like the bucket stilt, it's got a wider base. Those are pretty stable. I'm not the biggest fan of how they walk. I think they're a little bit clumpy. You get a bit of a clump feel when you're walking with it. Where drywall stilts, you'll get a rattle. You hear a metal rattle. And it's a smaller, narrower foot base. I think I think with some modifications, that smaller foot base can be fixed. I put big wide feet on mine, but all of your stability is where the base of your rubber grips are, and you're kind of limited to the foot base on the drywall stilt. It takes a little bit more time to learn, but most of the people that I've taught on these have learned in under 20 minutes. Now let's talk about peg stilts. Peg stilts are the oldest stilts in the world. These are the ones that I first learned on, and these are just a stick. Uh, there's some fancier ones out there, but really it started with a stick. The Bana tribe out in Ethiopia, these kids are out there running around with just pretty much a stick. It's one long stick with a little branch area for them to stand on, and they're practically running in these things. I am super impressed by these guys, up and down hills, across roads. Any of the clips that I've seen of them, I'm just overwhelmed and happy for these kids for being, having it being part of their culture. Then you got the Moco Jumbies down in Trinidad and Tobago with their carnival. These carnival guys, holy smokes, these guys are dancing all over the place. These guys are bending over backwards, lifting legs up, doing all this sort of thing. I look at them doing their stuff, and all I can think of is, holy smokes, my knees would give out so fast. I guess that's just showing my age. Then you got Dakota Stilts Albert, and with the Savannah Bananas, you got the cultural stuff, and then you get the guy comes out playing baseball in stilts. This guy, I love this guy. I love watching him. I mean, maybe it's because I'm biased. I'm a stilt walker, but I see him out there doing promotions and doing sport, doing dances, everything. Like I love this guy. And then you got these Doug Hunt with 55-foot stilts. What the hell? No. I've about reached my limit. I like my 2-foot. I've done 3-foot, but 55 feet. That's crazy. There's two other types that can go along with costuming. They're not as common. Digitigrade stilts or digilegs. These are angled to where it hides the form of your leg. It kind of gives you that werewolf leg because canines, they walk on their toes, and then this gives you that kicked out heel that dogs and other animals have. One of the really good examples of this is the spirit walker. You look at his with his quad outfit. You know, you have the arm supports that touch the ground, and then you have the digi legs in the back, and it really makes that creature look even more intimidating. Then you have spring stilts. I've seen these used a couple of times for costumes. Busch Gardens used to have a frog character that would bounce around in these. Uh, they're more like an extreme sport stilt, but where I think these would really work is General Grievous from Star Wars. If you think about the way he hunches over and he kind of lurks and kind of runs and hops, think about General Grievous in a pair of these spring stilts. I think it would be a match made in heaven. It's time to get up on our stilts. Now, what I need you to do first is scout for a place that you can sit on. I find something flat, find something preferably next to a wall if you're by yourself, or have a handler with you. Having a handler with you, especially if you're still learning, and having a friend, having a family member, being able to spot you. So in case you're a little bit wobbly, have a handler. Handlers and stilt walking go hand in hand. There's going to be more about that later in this series. But find a nice place, flat place that's even with the height of your knee. My stilts are 40 inches tall. This AV cart here is 40 inches tall. This is a perfect match for me. But if you just have platform stilts or platform shoes or bucket stilts, and you can probably step into those or have a tall stool to put those on. If you got tall pole stilts, you probably already have a custom ladder or thought about a ladder to get you up to that 10, 15 foot stage. But to save you the indignity of a kind of old guy climbing up on an AV cart, I'm going to use a little bit of movie magic. All right, I'm up on my stilts. Now it's time to tighten our straps. If you're using stock stilts, they'll have a toe strap and a heel strap and probably a leather strap around your calves. I've modified mine. I put a pair of shoes in there. I got Velcro shoes because I like Velcro. I thought it was going to be bad, especially with the leg straps, but I had a friend of mine turn me on to these. Best investment I've made. If you ever want to see the how I modified my stilts, I have an entire video based on that. So let's tighten our straps. And you want these as tight as possible. You don't want it so tight it's cutting off circulation, but you don't want any wiggle room. I'll explain to that in just a second, because you stand up and you feel a little bit of wiggle room and you don't feel comfortable in your stilts, get back down, readjust your stilts. Okay, right there, I felt my skin pinching. You don't want that. You'll get blisters. So I'm going to straighten. There we go. All right, if you notice, I did that a couple times. I want to make sure that that's tight and not pinching any skin, because you'll get blisters. Also, if you notice, I'm not wearing my neoprene sleeves. If you want neoprene sleeves on your legs, this is really good for stopping the skin pinching that comes with your straps, and you can get blisters. And believe me, I've had plenty of blisters with my old straps. Let's see, let's get up. So this is where having a spotter helps. Having a spotter or having a handler is great when stilt walking, because especially if you're in your beginning, you're going to be unsure a little bit. If you're just learning, you want somebody there to, if you get a case of jelly legs, if you get a case of looking down and being fearful. But you know what I always tell people, find a spot and look forward, look beyond where you're going to be, because in all purposes, what you're doing is you're going to stand up and you're going to walk forward. When you are, even when you're standing on the ground, do you stare at your feet when you walk? Really? If you stare at your feet, what's going to happen? You're going to stumble, you're going to fall, because you're not looking where you're going. And the same goes for stilt walking. You always want to keep your eyes forward. You don't want to be looking down. Well, if you've got somebody down there, yeah, but if you want to be focused forward, because really, it's your body. This is just an extension of your body. When you walk forward, you're lifting one foot and you're lifting the other and you're moving forward. And, really, that's all it is. That's, as long as you're focused forward and you're focused on performing and having fun, the worry about looking down and getting a case of jelly legs and getting a case of fear of height, fear of falling, it kind of fades away. So here we go. If you have a handler, hold their hand. have them lift you up. They're great at crowd spotting. They're great at troubleshooting. They're great at finding out if you have a problem with your stilt, if you're having a problem with your costume, to leading you away from a crowd, to find a place to sit down again, to troubleshoot things right before you hit a crowd. But if you have a handler and you're learning, have them lift you up. If you're by yourself like me, place your palms at your hips and stand up. It's easy as that. You notice I went right into horse riding stance. I went down, I squatted down, and I'm keeping that 18 to 24 inches between my stilts. My base is good. I can lean back and forth, but never further than my knees. So give me just a second. I'm going to get rid of this. More movement magic. Yay. So here I am up against the wall. If you notice, once I get up against the wall, my confidence has changed. My position has changed. I'm no longer squatting down, focusing on my weight, because this is essentially working like a tripod. I now have a very steady third leg, so to say, but I try to stay perpendicular with the wall because I want to lean this way. Because if I want to fall, I'd rather fall into the wall instead of falling over my heels or backwards, because that's where drywall stilts want to move. Drywall stilts generally want to fall this way. But if you're leaning against the wall, what you're doing is you're changing the way you're thinking of how I might fall. You know, you're really not going to fall that way. You're steady. If you don't have a wall nearby, a ceiling. A ceiling works the same way, because now you're planting your hand there and it's steadying your legs. It's pushing your weight down over your legs. Something else, if you need, find a pole. This turns into a tripod. Pole, or in this case, a barbell, will turn you into a tripod. The one thing that you really want to watch out for is leaning too far forward, relying too much on this. You still always want to focus your weight between your legs and over your stilts, and use this as an aid in case something happens. If you're walking, if you're sitting here taking a step forward, a pole will help you as you're transitioning, lifting your stilt up. More about that in the next video when we're going to be teaching you how to take your first steps. Another thing that comes in handy is I tell everybody these arms are my saving grace with stilt walking, because it always works like a tightrope walker. That giant pole that they use to keep their balance on the rope, these arms and the weight of these arms do the same thing. One thing I do is I give folks my spotter arms. This is from my weight rack right there. These spotter arms are pretty much just like those arms. What it does is it helps keep your balance by spreading your weight out, but it also lowers your balance because these are heavy, and it brings it down to where now rock back and forth. It's a little bit easier. If you really want to, if you're interested in a quad costume, these are good at training for a quad. But if you notice, my weight is over my hips. My weight is over my stilts. So it takes practice to transition, and plant. Transition up, transition down. If you notice, I'm never changing where the weight is over my stilt until I'm ready and my arms are down. But with that, we're up in stilts. It's pretty easy. Am I worried about falling? No. Do I have years of experience? Yes. But in generality, it's these very simple rules of keeping your balance, keeping the weight over this leg, keeping the weight over this leg, feeling the pressure, keeping your space, squatting down, and right there, put your hands on your knees to talk to somebody. This will help balance you. And with that, it's time to take our first steps. And that's coming in our next episode. So if you've had a costume that really inspired you to want to be a stilt walker, put it down in the comments. Is it my Wampa? Is it another one from a movie? Is it the Wheelers from Wizard of Oz, Return to Oz? Those things were creepy as hell. Is it the Landstriders? Is it any of the people that you've seen at a fair or a circus or an event that are just festival stilt walkers, like at a theme park? What inspired you to go up in stilts? Let's put that in the comments and make sure that you subscribe so you see the next video. The next video is all about taking your first steps. I showed you a little bit of it first here. Now let's go into more depth in the next video. I'm out of breath. It's time, but I'll be filming the next one very, very soon. I'll see you soon. Remember, let's go big this year. Enjoy. Hey, after editing, Jeremy here. I just want to apologize for the sound. I upgraded to a Helane lav mic halfway through this filming, and oh my god, does that sound way better than some of the early shots that I took. Also, I've been collecting a whole bunch of videos for different types of stilts and still walking around the world. I'm going to put 2 cards at the end of this video. If you want to check out either of those playlists, click on them at the end. Thank you.